2 months. I have been gone for 2 months, probably closer to 3 by the time this video actually goes up. It has been a long time and I have missed making these videos so much. And I'd love to say there was some profound reason behind my hiatus. Maybe I went backpacking across Europe to find myself. Maybe I got a new job that has left me very fulfilled with my life. Or maybe it was a combination of numerous commitments all coming up at once, along with a blossoming addiction to Stardew Valley. I'm sure one of those things is true. But I'm back now, and I'm back with a few changes, beginning with this video and this little guy right here. You might not know this, but holding a Blue Yeti mic for hours at a time hurts. My arms get very sore after that. Anyways, back to the changes I'm making, starting with this video. This is the first in what I'm hoping will be a series exploring the idea of cinematic language through certain scenes from the movies I love. See, something that you probably know at least subconsciously but never really think about is that everything in a film set, whether it's camera positioning, prop placement, lighting, all of this is entirely staged. And by that I mean everything that you see, whether in the background or the foreground, is very deliberately placed. From how a shot is composed, how a shot is lit, every detail that exists in the background, nothing is accidental. And when a filmmaker knows how to use all of these implicit and explicit elements and combine them together, it can create a truly magical scene. And I'd love to talk about some of the scenes that I think exemplify this quality of cinematic language, and also it gives me an excuse to use that film degree that I paid a lot of money for. And I wanted to kick this series off with an amazing scene from one of my favorite films of all time, and that is Ridley Scott's film, Gladiator. See, when it comes to cinematic language, Ridley Scott absolutely knows what he is doing. And Gladiator is filled with scenes that are ripe with these small little details that elevate it above just a conventional historical tragedy. But the scene that I want to shed light on today is specifically the murder of the Emperor Marcus Aurelius by his son Commodus. And if you haven't seen the movie, this is a scene where Commodus, a character who has many key flaws, transforms from just that, a flawed character, into the villain of the story. See, despite all of his shortcomings as a person, he is still fully expecting to be named the next Caesar of the Roman Empire. However, Emperor Marcus has made the decision that control of the empire should be passed back to the Senate rather than falling into the hands of his cruel son. So join me as we jump into this scene and I talk about the cinematic language that I think elevates this scene from a good scene into a great scene. So thank you so much for watching, and let's get into it. We begin, of course, with this shot of Commodus staring at a marble bust of his father, the Emperor. For most of this scene, half of his face is illuminated, but half of it is cast in shadow. On top of this mask of light concealing his true emotions, it also symbolizes that his character is at a crossroads. Will he be able to rise to the occasion and overcome the flaws within himself, or will he completely fall into darkness? I don't know, let's find out. Marcus enters the scene, and this is where the nuanced acting of Joaquin Phoenix begins to take center stage. He asks his son if he is ready for his next task, the implication, of course, being to succeed him as Emperor of Rome.
Are you ready to do your duty for Rome? Yes, Father.
Immediately, Commodus's eyes light up and the tears start welling. For decades, he has yearned for the approval of his father, and being bestowed the title of Caesar would be the ultimate act of love in his mind. But this feeling of elation is shortly lived.
You will not be emperor.
This response from his father could not have stung any more painfully. And we'll see why in a moment, but for now it's enough to say that decades of family drama is about to spill over. And in his eyes we see the progression from elation to grief and then to silent rage. And the conversation from here gets steadily more and more personal as the emotional baggage that is built up over the decades is finally acknowledged. Marcus had once sent his son Commodus a letter. Enclosed were the 4 virtues that would make a great emperor. And these in his mind are wisdom, justice, fortitude, and temperance.
As I read the list, I knew I had none of them.
And still he attempts to bargain with his father, listing his own virtues.
But none of my virtues won your list. Even then, it was as if you didn't want me for your son.
Now we begin to realize his reaction is not because his character doesn't align with his father's vision. It's not even because he's not being named emperor. The true heart of the conflict between these two, and the thing that sets Commodus up to become the villain for the rest of this film, is that ultimately he feels rejected by his father. And after this confession, Ridley makes a subtle but powerful adjustment with the cameras and the actors. See, for the whole dialogue up until this point, Joaquin Phoenix and Richard Harris have been talking to each other at the same level. Quite literally, the two are standing at eye level with each other. See, for the audience, this subconsciously establishes a balanced power dynamic in this scene. Both characters have equal power in this dialogue. But after this confession, Marcus slowly sits down and the camera pointed at Commodus steadily lowers with him. The resulting effect is that Commodus looms over his father, thus taking control of the power dynamic in the scene. Marcus is no longer the emperor of Rome. He's an old man and a father who let his son down. And of course, I want to take a moment to appreciate the amazing performances in this scene. I've talked before on this channel about how I think Joaquin Phoenix is possibly the most talented actor working today, but Richard Harris, who plays Marcus in the scene, does an incredible job with it as well. Ultimately, it comes down to the performance to sell the scene, and the performances sell it perfectly. Commodus confesses that all he ever wanted was just some small acknowledgement or gesture from his father. Some genuine moment of affection, saying that he made him proud in any sort of way. But he never got that. And here we get our last shift of the power dynamic in the scene. Marcus gets off the chair and then kneels before his son. Now his son completely towers over him, while the camera pointed at Marcus is looking down on him. In making himself so much smaller in stature like this, Marcus is surrendering what little power he has left in this scene up to his son. Commodus now has the Emperor of Rome completely at his mercy. After hearing this confession from Commodus, Marcus blames himself for all of it.
Your faults as a son is my failure as a father.
And he opens his arms, hoping that his son might embrace him and forgive him for the damage he has caused. This is the crossroads moment for Commodus's character. His father has totally surrendered power to him and is offering him the one thing he has desired all of these years. Will he accept this gesture, or will he do something else? I wonder which one it will be. He steps forward and father and son embrace. It's never said in this scene, but I think in that exact moment, Commodus realized that that was no longer what he wanted. Maybe he just sees this as an attempt by his father to placate his temper. Based on his actions for the rest of the movie, I do genuinely believe that all Commodus ever wanted was a hug from his father. But once he had that, he realized that more than anything, and more than that hug, he wanted the throne. In this moment, Commodus's face is almost completely consumed by darkness, as if foreshadowing to us that he has already made his decision. And pulling away, he takes one last look at his father's face. The face of a man who has clearly made mistakes, but is hoping desperately that his son isn't too far gone.
I would put to the whole world if you would only love me.
This comes off as a little bit sweet, but his use of the past tense implies that even in this moment, he does not believe that his father genuinely loves him. And then he becomes the true villain of the story. Ironic that after craving affection from his father all his life, he chooses to murder his father with a hug. And that's how the scene ends. But there is one last thing that I want to mention about this scene, a singular element that I believe elevates it from a good scene to a great scene. One little prop placement that gives this scene an added element of depth, and that of course is the bust of the Emperor Marcus Aurelius. See, in a very symbolic sense, there are two versions of Marcus Aurelius present in this scene. It is very heavily implied in the scene that we just went over that when Commodus was a child, Marcus was a very neglectful and often apathetic father.
One kind word, one full hug, where you pressed me to your chest and held me tight, would have been like the sum of my heart for 1,000 years.
And beyond that, we see dialogue in earlier scenes that imply that in the past, Marcus was a very cold and oftentimes violent emperor.
For 25 years, I have conquered, spilt blood, expanded the empire. I brought the sword. Nothing more.
And so in this scene, we have two different versions of Marcus. There's the contemplative, kind, and guilt-ridden Marcus that we see here, but there is also the cold and possibly cruel tyrant Marcus of the past decades. And when the scene begins, Commodus is staring into the face of the old Marcus. And possibly he is remembering the man that his father was back in those days. The man who made him as cold and starved for affection as he is now. And when the dialogue between the two begins, the bust is always looming over the shoulder of Commodus, like a burden that he has been forced to carry all of his life. The ever-watchful eyes of the tyrant emperor look upon who he and his son have become. And finally, when Commodus murders his father, the final shot of the scene is the looming bust of Marcus Aurelius, witnessing his own murder. I believe Ridley Scott chose this shot to close the scene because it was the old Marcus who made Commodus the way that he is, and ultimately led to his own death. See, Maximus, the protagonist of Gladiator, is the legacy of the current Marcus Aurelius, embodying all of the virtues that Marcus held in such high esteem. But Commodus was the legacy of the old Marcus Aurelius, embodying everything that he used to be. And it's that added depth that I think makes this scene really stand out and what I think elevates this movie into an amazing movie. And is definitely one of the reasons that Gladiator is one of my favorite films of all time. And hopefully you enjoyed my explanation of this scene and the cinematic language that I think takes it one step beyond what it could have been. And if you're still watching, then thank you so much for watching. And sorry I've been gone for so long, but I'm hopefully back now, and like I said at the beginning, I'm making a few changes around here. See, I love doing the long-form deep dives into stories that I love, stories that have impacted me, and I'll keep doing those. But those take a long time to shoot, write, and edit, which means at best I'm uploading 1, maybe 2 times a month. And so I had the idea to do a series like this of shorter videos still on the topic of movies, but stuff that I can get out a little more regularly, and stuff that still relates to the topics that I love talking about so much. And so this is the official first entry in what I hope will become a series on this channel, talking about the cinematic language of certain scenes in movies and stuff that I think elevates them beyond what they could have been. And I also have ideas for other series as well that I'll probably be exploring in the next couple months here, so stay tuned for that. Another change is that I want to start uploading again on my gaming channel, Witty Games. And I have been for the last few weeks in the process of recording videos for that channel. For the longest time, I've been wanting to shift on that channel from the traditional Let's Play model into a more narrative-driven focus on games. And as I briefly mentioned at the start of this video, I have been playing a lot of Stardew Valley. So rather than overcoming that addiction, I'm choosing to turn it into content instead. And I don't want to jinx it, but the script for my next Witty Games video is nearly done. And so if you want to check that out when it does go up, don't forget to go to my gaming channel and subscribe so that you'll be notified when I start posting again. And the last thing I wanted to touch on is a video that I started working on before I accidentally went on a 2 to 3 month break. See, I recorded and partially edited a video of me talking about David Lynch's adaptation of Dune from 1984. In it, I talked about the things that I thought worked in the movie and the many things that I thought did not work in the movie. And the main problem with that video is that something went wrong with the recording, so I have about 20 minutes of video followed by 2 hours of audio, just audio. And I don't really want to re-record that video, so let me know in the comments below if you'd still want to see me finish editing and ultimately upload that video, even if most of it is just my audio and of course like clips from the movie that I included as B-roll. To be clear, the video would not be over 2 hours long. That's just how long the file length is currently. I would be editing it down from there. I was personally kind of ready to scrap the video, but if you all want to see it, then I will just power through, get the video edited, and you can all watch it. So let me know in the comments. And of course, a huge thank you goes out to my patrons, Sean, Happy the Knife, and my top tier patrons, RD and Snowy. Thank you so much for supporting me in my 2 to 3 months of radio silence. I'm sorry. Thank you all so much for your patience. You're the best, and you're still supporting my dream of being able to eventually do this for you all full time, and I can't thank you enough for that. And I think that's about it. I'm gonna start editing this video because I want to get it up as soon as possible. You all have waited long enough, and I can't wait to be back to posting videos like this. So I'm gonna get to work on this. What do I always say? What do I say at the end of my videos again? Thank you all so much for watching, and I will of course be back with more videos. I hope that you're excited for that because I know that I am. And cut.